like I like it. So smooth like the first time I felt it. Pearls all down her neck, so dark, so smooth, yeah, she got me wrecked. She gave me magic in my fingertips, as my teeth are tugging on her lips. When I tapped that bottom, she liked it. So smooth like the first time I felt it. Baby, I don't wanna cause a scene, but I love the way I make you scream. We can float together on a dream, to the rhythm of our make-believe, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Oh, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Alright, when you're in my hands, I call you mine. I just got to have you all the time. Wind you up like I got you feeling right. I've been waiting for you all my life. If I turn it on, it might get loud. Set the rhythm, we can work it out. I like the way that we fit together, so smooth like the first time I felt her. Baby, I don't wanna cause a scene, but I love the way I make you scream. We can float together on a dream, to the rhythm of our make-believe, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Oh, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Alright, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Oh, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Alright, to the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. To the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. To the rhythm of our make-believe, yeah. Oh, to the rhythm of our make-believe,
Whoa! What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so welcome to Van Philosophy. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and if you're here, thanks for being here. Right? It's pretty cool to be here, watching and listening, being a part of the conversation. We got a weird one for you guys today.
By the way, I'm Kyle, and this is Jay. If you're just watching this for the first time,
I'm Susan.
Sure someone is.
Yeah.
So we're talking later. We're gonna talk about time.
Yeah. We had a lot of thoughts on it this week, man. I don't know.
It was in the blog.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
When we were kind of deciding what the next topic was going to be, I remember we kind of went through some stuff, and we were like, you just talk about, nerd out about time and time perception. Because we would do that on the road all the time.
Yeah, time,
that was
everything that's bogus stuff, man. Like, everything.
So,
kick into what's been up with you, man.
kick into what's been up with me.
Yeah.
See, I was going to go, so what's up with you?
What's up with you?
Well, we can talk about me first, if you want to.
Yeah.
I try to do things for myself, and so one of those things for my own health is meditation. And you do the same thing.
I don't do that.
I'll
Not
do
into
that.
it.
What are you talking about, you weirdo? You sit and meditate.
Yeah.
And I kind of cycle back between two, or what I call two different types. I have guided meditation and then I have unguided meditation. So my unguided meditation is usually me just trying to be very, very still and not think about anything. But I do some guided meditation stuff. And I won't get into exactly everything I do because it'll take forever. But my guided meditation kind of, it forces me to ask myself questions that I don't expect to ask myself. And that's kind of how I go through it. So this week, in my meditation,
In my state of mind.
It sounds kind of weird to talk about, but whatever. I found myself having to answer the question, why are you defeated and why are you lost? And what are you going to do to stand your ground? And that was kind of like, that was the path I went on.
Right.
And I remember being like, this is kind of weird. I don't know, like, I feel fine. I don't feel defeated or lost about anything. I don't think so. And then just kind of dove in and, discovered, like, as a musician, like, you get defeated all the time. Like, if you choose a career in the music industry, like, you're going to face defeat after defeat after defeat all the time. And, you're going to lose something or you're going to feel lost. And looking back, I'd be like, well, if you You can lose time, and you can lose money. You
Right.
can lose your dignity. You know what I mean? Depending on whatever it is. You know, like I feel like when you're defeated about something, you do lose something.
Well, especially with this last year, man, there's been a lot
Yeah,
of questioning of what's going on. And we didn't have control over it, but we were defeated by a lot of things.
lots of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of went through, because I also kind of had to answer the question, like, how are you going to stand your ground? Because part of my meditation is to tie in different unexpected questions. So, you know, I kind of realized, I was like, well, what are the good things that I've lost because I've been defeated, you know?
Right.
And I kind of learned, it's like you don't want to put up with shit, and you don't be like, I don't want to do that again. You know what I mean? So I'm losing the desire to, you know, get into whatever defeated you kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so it was a good time. I remember texting you. I was like, oh, I'm writing my what's up for the blog, and I did my meditation, and it seems a little personal. I don't really want to talk about it because it makes me grumpy and I'm defeated. But
Can you believe, by the way, how early I sent you mine this week?
Oh yeah, you were like right on
It
it.
was like 10 o'clock in the morning. There it was.
And it was like 2 days before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god,
What happened?
that's great. I'm gonna like make you do that now. Like next week, I'm gonna be like, hey, you're like 5 minutes late.
You're 5 minutes late, dude.
Just
Hurry
like,
it up.
what's going on?
Yeah. No, because when you started talking about it and the idea of being defeated, it was like, I honestly like, I ended up reading back whenever you sent it to me to like kind of go over and check the blog and how everything's written out. I went over and read it, and like when I started first reading it, I'm like, oh no.
Right?
Like where is he at? Like is he okay?
Yeah.
Like I honestly had that first thought, and then as I kind of like went back through it again, I'm like, oh, okay, it's not quite that, but it is understanding that feeling of emotion.
Yeah, I think I said something to the effect like everyone's gonna feel this way, and some people feel like this every day. Some people feel like this like once every 7 years or something.
Right.
But it's good to analyze it because there's lessons that you can learn from it. And so it was a good time, you know, delving in to find my clarity. And you know, on top of that, the whole thing of like, well, what are you going to do to stand your ground? I was like, I think it makes sense to me now, where it's like, well, just because, you know, something didn't work out, or you didn't, you know, do this the right way, or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that you lay down and die. It's like, just don't do that one thing that you don't want to do.
Right.
You know, it's not like, oh, well, I don't like this one thing. It's like saying, like, I don't like strawberries, so I'm never going to eat.
Yeah, that's because
You know
they go
what I mean?
bad so quick. Like,
They do go bad quick.
They get the moldies, man.
We were talking about that today.
The spinach. You
Uh,
have to eat it like that day.
Talking about how like the staple produce is the stuff that lasts forever.
Right,
It's
the
like 'cause everyone
celebrated
gets
thing.
potatoes, everyone gets carrots, everyone gets
Yeah.
apples.
Pumpkins last forever.
Pumpkins.
It's because I still have pumpkins on my porch, and they look like brand new.
They still look like you could eat them.
Yeah, you can store them. We like store in the attic for 10 years. It'd be fine.
What was that book? It was like the girl whose family lived in the woods, and
That's like a bunch of books.
I know.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember. It's a really good book. I did that little project on the first chapter of it, like a while ago. Should have did like an audio thing, whatever
okay,
that
yeah,
was.
yeah.
I can't remember the book's name.
I have no idea.
But I remember them talking about like, oh yeah, you put the gourds up in the attic 'cause they'll keep all winter.
Right. You know, like this week, man, for me, like, I finally finished that video, which
It looks good.
thank
It
you.
looks good.
Yeah, I'm glad. Like, you add the thing. I think it's like what's weird when you're like trying to create something. Like you keep going back and questioning. Like you're like, oh, that looks like crap. And like some days it's just, you feel like that no matter what. Like you're just watching you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You start watching over the footage and you're like, ah, that looks stupid. That looks like crap. That looks like crap. And it's like you start beating yourself up about no matter what it is. It could be gold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I remember when we were working on the record, there was some times where I was like, oh man, what are we doing? You know, like why? You know, but I finally got over some of that stuff and started putting it together and just getting to it, you know. And I ended up reflecting a lot on, we were talking about the time stuff, like about like why time seems to go by faster whenever you're older versus whenever you're younger, and maybe the concept of like it's because you've had so many experiences. So like whenever you refer to as your forever in that moment, because every moment is your forever there. Because right now, this lasts forever, man. Like just us sitting here talking.
Mm-hmm.
But like tomorrow, this is only a blip. You know what I mean? Like, but your sum being so much, so whenever you get older and you keep having this larger and larger sum, that's why time seems to be like, oh, it goes by so fast, because when you think of time, it's all of that instead of this short amount of time.
Yeah, and I think too, like, you know, when you're a kid, a year is forever.
Oh yeah.
The thought of like, you'll do that in a year, and you agonize over it, like a whole year, and then like when you think about a year when you're older, you'd be like, oh yeah, that'll be like really soon. Like, really, I only have a year? I better hurry up.
And that's
you know
what's tough about it, because like trying to make those decisions, you know, because around the holidays and everything, you know, you start thinking about like making sure you're doing the things that you enjoy instead of like, you know, having to go deal with the family, and you're like, I'm dealing with it, but it's not, you don't want it to be that. You want to be like, I want to go spend time with my family and like hang out with them. So you start thinking about all this stuff during this time of year. Start reflecting on that kind of stuff. And you start reflecting on like everything, like where we were talking about earlier today when we had like a little rehearsal this morning about like what's our plans for next year? What's it gonna look like? How are we gonna shape things? You know, what's gonna make us the most satisfied and fulfilled in like what we're doing? You know.
Yeah.
And that thought of time as you get older, feeling like, as I've gotten older, feeling like this kind of like, oh, we don't do this now, or we don't make these decisions, it's just gonna go and be gone. You know.
Well, I know, like, I looked up some stuff on time, and I wrote it down. What did it say?
Yeah, so let's get into the topic. If you guys have any kind of questions or input, make sure you guys get in the chat. We are on this normal latency thing. We're trying to. Last week we had some skips and stuff, so we super apologize for that stuff. It was kind of rough to watch, but if you get in the comments in here, it might come in a little bit late, but we'll make sure that we get to them. We'll take pauses and breaks to go in between if anybody's here want to get into it. Otherwise, we're just going to go weird and start just chit-chatting about this stuff for a while.
So I have here, it says, the indefinite continued progress of existence. And that's what time means. And according to Google, anyway.
Yeah. Well, trust Google, because they know. Yeah.
I looked up Webster's and it said something very similar.
Yeah.
But I remember it was weird. It's like time is a measurement of progress, denotatively or scientifically speaking. And, you know, time is basically, you know, I kind of nerded out about some stuff and found out that time and acceleration and gravity are all kind of the same thing.
Right, which is weird. It's a weird concept.
It's a weird concept to think about.
To wrap your head
around.
around.
But the fact is, it's like time is, it's like, well, this is traveling. This point is reaching this point, and it's going this fast, so our measurement is time. So it's a measurement of progress. You were here, and now you're here, and that's time.
Right.
But the gravity and acceleration thing, I thought was really cool. When I was a kid, I loved going to Six Flags, and I grew up north, so I don't think I've ever been to the Six Flags in Georgia. I've been to the one, you know, North. We used to go all the time, and I love the Batman ride, and I love the Demon.
Oh, they had a Batman.
I think they have a Batman down here.
Yeah.
Do they have a Demon down here?
I don't think I've ever heard of
The
the
Demon is cool.
Yeah.
But, like, it's scary because it's like all these like sharp rocks. You look like you're gonna like slam your head into them.
Right.
But there's one called the Giant Drop, and they might have that down here too. I'm not sure. But I remember, you know, a lot of times when you remember something, it's like you're watching TV. But like I have this memory where it's like if I remember it, I feel everything. And I remember it's called the Giant Drop. You strap in, you're all in this circle, and they just lift you up really, really high and then drop you. And then kind of hit the brakes as you come down.
Right.
So you're sitting in there, and I remember like they're pulling you up, and I remember feeling so heavy, getting lifted up, and then getting up there, and then hearing the click of the latches opening, where you're just gonna free fall you, and then it almost felt like I felt like nothing, and then just felt the rush of falling, and I could still, like, thinking about it, I still feel it, you know.
No, here's a good question though. Like, how long did it actually feel like it took you to get up there, and then how long did it feel like the thrill was?
I don't know if I remember that. I mean, I imagine that it's like it seems like it takes forever to get up there, and then it's done.
Right.
You know? But that kind of makes sense because like they crank you up real slow on purpose, and then they drop you. You know, so it is actually less time. But I remember that, and then today I heard that I wore my Einstein shirt today for this because I was looking at some Einstein stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So Einstein said, he said, you close your eyes and imagine you're in a room with no windows, no doors. There's no way to tell where you are or what's up other than you're just in that room. And then there's a scale to measure yourself, and you go and step on it, and you weigh what you figured you'd weigh. And then they say, well, what's happening?
Which is also always disappointing for me. You get in there, step on the scale, and you're like, oh man,
I need to do this on the moon.
Yeah.
He'd say like, well, what's going on outside the room? And he'd say like, well, probably like you're on Earth, you know, because you weigh what you're supposed to weigh. But because you don't have any visual cues, what could also be possible is you're floating on a spaceship and you are accelerating in an upward motion. So you are getting pushed down into the scale,
right,
by that amount of force. And he said, and that could totally be possible, because acceleration and gravity act the same way, you know.
Right.
As
That's
far
what's
as
weird
as
about
practically speaking. You know?
A side thing, which we won't stay there long, but that is what's weird about gravity, though, is because like we don't even understand it. We don't know really.
We don't
how it
quite
works.
understand it.
Right now, it's just like we think some kind of ideas, but none of those quite make sense. But I think we can do some math to calculate, because as it relates to mass, I think
we
can be like, okay,
we can calculate
this.
but we can also calculate the effects of acceleration in this exact same way that gravity affects us. So it's
Right.
kind of like gravity and acceleration. Like maybe they're not the same thing, but in that scenario, they are exactly the same. You get the same result. So then he was talking. He then kind of went on and expounded on that upward motion, and this kind of refers to his idea of relativity with time. He said, because let's say I was gonna bring a little spaceship. But like, let's say
this is the spaceship.
let's say okay. Well, we don't have to do it with a spaceship. We'll just do it like, okay, let's say I'm shining a light.
Right.
Okay. And you're sitting right there. Okay, so I'm shining a light, and then you see that light travel in a straight path.
Right.
Now, if you were accelerating and going in an upward motion, what you would see is the beam of light come out of the flashlight, and then it would kind of make a little arc, because that would be your perception of what's happening,
right?
Because of your acceleration.
Can you experience that? Can you do tests like where somebody, and you just do it on a smaller scale?
I mean, it's hard to do in your living room, but I know like they've done tests and they've proven it.
Right. So if you had like a laser pointer, you can get down and squat and then move yourself up faster or something.
I don't know. We could try it.
No, we should try it at some point.
Yeah, I don't know like what scale it has to work on or how fast you have to be going.
Right.
I didn't really look up those statistics.
Yeah.
But anyway, that beam of light will bend, and the thing with distance, like the shortest distance is always a straight line, and if it bends, it's not the shortest distance.
Sure. Yeah.
So that means that there's a little more time in that distance. So your perception of time when you're accelerating, it is physically and definably altered.
Right.
Where time has slowed down for you, because it would be faster if the light could get there in a straight line, but to you it's arcing. So it's kind of weird where it's like, oh, how that little path goes, where you can explain like the reason why you feel that way about time, and like how come like it seems like time's getting faster or slower or whatever it is. It's because it's the truth.
Right.
It's because your perception has changed, and that alters your time in a definable way.
Right.
But like all that sounds like it's like, oh, but what does that really do? But one of the things he said, this is like my last thing on it, but he said, he basically said, like, I know that this is just numbers and math and it's not that interesting and it doesn't really seem like you feel what's going on. And he said, but put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and tell me how long that feels. And he said, or look into the eyes of someone that you care about for a minute and the moment's gone before you even realize it.
Right.
So he's like, so time is relative, and it does change with your perception.
So
and what you're doing and the progress you're making.
So like in theory, you're saying like a happier, more comfortable life goes by faster than a miserable one, a painful one.
I don't know. It's more to do with like,
can I slow down my perception of time by wearing like a barbed wire anklet?
I don't really know. Like I haven't found anything about joy and pain. It's more of a relationship to fast or slow. It's at least how it's been proven. But what I imagine is like as you get older, like if I say, what did you do yesterday? And so you're thinking about time.
You're like, I don't know.
You're thinking about something.
I have no idea what happened.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I do.
So
I went to the card shop and wrecked them. Yeah.
So when you're a child, if I say, what did you do yesterday? And they think the word yesterday means something to you when you're at a young age. You've heard that word 100 times, let's say, and you have 7 vivid memories of what the word yesterday means for you. And you're going through all that information so that you can say, yesterday I went to school, and you do it in real time, But as you have more experiences, if I say, what did you do yesterday? And, and you're older, like they say we're older, we're in our 30s.
Yeah.
but now that we're older, how many times have you heard the word yesterday?
I don't know. Whenever I was a kid, though, I did consider people in their 30s old.
Yeah. I mean, I still do. I'm in my 30s, and I think I'm old, and I think all of you are old.
We're all just old.
Come on, like, whatever.
That is curious. I like to like pose the question, though, like, if something like that, like, if you were to, like, purposely, like, give yourself discomfort, if that would actually extend your perception of the time it takes to live. Like if I had, like we were talking about, like
if you have a miserable life,
yeah, or just something that's like a reminder. Like instead of being comfortable, like try to be uncomfortable, and that I would imagine that would make the time pass by a lot slower.
I imagine it probably would too. I mean, like I don't want to wear like something that hurts, you know what I mean? But I enjoy working hard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I like working out, I like getting my heart pump fast, and I enjoy doing hard things.
You said it, I did.
Yeah. But I never really thought of it that way, as like because it makes makes you experience your time better. I just kind of went like, well, it's like if I do this tough thing, it'll make me tougher, so that way the normal things are easy.
Things are being tough or easy. Yeah. Would change perspective in that way, or is that relative? I mean, I'm talking about more of like a physical reminder out of comfort. Like if we're talking about like even like emotional comfort or physical. Like if you're sad and depressed, your weeks go by like so slow, and you're like that's just what happens. Mm-hmm. But when you're happy and joyful, it seems like things kind of go by really fast. Or like I was talking about like physically. Mm-hmm. If you were to keep saying it, but a barbed wire like anklet, and then you wore that all day, would that actually change your perspective of the time it took to live that day? I would assume that it would.
Maybe it would, but like I don't want to do that.
No, I don't want to do it, but it's the idea of like forced perspective shifts, and I'm not encouraging nobody to go out there and do that.
Don't do this.
You're gonna get an infection.
Please don't do this.
It's just the thought.
It's the thought. It's the thought.
Yeah, it's more like a little thought experiment.
I would think that you would get conditioned.
Yeah, eventually.
You know what I mean? Like, and so I I would think it would have to be something new.
Isn't there? There's
every day for it to work.
There's a some kind of group. I forgot what they're called, but
Sadists.
no,
Masochists.
no. There's like
They're called masochists.
It's like priests that like whip themselves and actually do wear like razor
That was in the
stuff.
Da Vinci Code book.
Yeah, those guys.
Are those guys real?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Probably
Whole
just
thing.
sound ignorant. You're like, is
By the
that real?
I hope the connection's good out there. It seems like the chat's pretty slow tonight. But yeah, hopefully everything's going smooth. So anyway,
Yeah. We
went back to the old settings, and not yet.
We're gonna see what happens.
But yeah, time is a bogus thing. I mean, like I remember like thinking back right now about like how we've been doing music together for 11 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like just yesterday I said 10. I feel like just the other day I said 9.
Uh-huh.
Can you believe it's been 11 years? It's weird.
Sometimes I can.
Sometimes you can, but like, I don't know. Like I think that's the longest I've ever done anything. I mean, have you done anything longer than 11 years?
School.
Yeah, suppose so.
School.
I didn't even do it. I don't know if I
in
did
grade
it.
school for 12 years, and if you go to college or whatever, it's
Yeah.
more, 4 years more or whatever. So
Right.
School.
Yeah.
I kind of, like, I still feel like I haven't left school. Like, I have, like, school kid brain still, where you're like, oh, I gotta do this. Oh, they're watching, they're gonna grade me.
Right.
I think, like, I'm thinking that goes away, like, in your 40s.
Yeah.
Guessing. Or, like, no, actually, you know what it probably is more time has to have passed where you're out of school than you've been in school.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's it. Or maybe it has to, like, be double that. You
Yeah.
have to be, like, out of it for 12 years, and then the next 12 years. feels
Yeah,
more
that is
same.
strange too. Like how time has that like that weird like effect about like all the stuff I learned in college whenever I was going for automotive stuff before or after the small business stuff. Like I forgot about it. Now the small business stuff I remembered a lot about it because I had to use it.
Mm-hmm.
But the automotive stuff, like I remember like small little bits and pieces, but like I would not trust myself to like really fix a car anymore. Like I would do the easy stuff.
You do the stuff that, like...
Place an alternator, do all this. I do.
I
that
will
kind
tell
of
you,
stuff, but
I think a lot of people I know have no idea how to change an alternator.
sure, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I need help if I'm doing it.
Do you remember that?
You know what
do you
I
remember
mean?
that time? That,
Like, I know how, but I need someone else there to be like, hey, watch this for me. Make sure I'm not messing this up.
Do you remember though that time we were on our way to a gig and the alternator went out in the van?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
you
we
just changed
pulled it and then we changed it and we made it there before the show. And like we actually got on stage on time and everything.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like we made load in on time, like everything was on time.
Did
It wasn't
everything.
even, like,
Killed it.
that
Killed
came
it.
up in like a social media memory or something not that long ago.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So this has got a little bit of
Little glitch.
little lag here. It says maintain smooth streamings. We're gonna open the widget. Data. Stream healthy. Nothing. Excellent error. Anyway. Well, it's a little light tonight. Anyway. Do you have anything else to say? Like, I mean, like it's a topic that we could probably sit here and talk about for
hours.
like hours and hours.
What I was going to finish my thought was that, when you have less experience and then I say, hey, think about this and communicate with me about this, you're not having to go through as many memories and you're not filtering out as much information. When you're older, if I say, what did you do yesterday? And you think about the word yesterday and what that means for you and what your brain has to do to connect those wires so that you can talk about something.
Right.
Is so much more. So I think your brain is accelerating, in that way, as far as like you have to move through all of those moments again. And you do it without thinking, you know what I mean? But it's like all of those experiences, your brain is processing all of those really, really quickly, obviously. But I think it kind of does have to do with that, the acceleration property of time dilation, where you go, I'm moving faster.
But that's where like
all the time.
I question
You're
some of
right,
that stuff
yeah.
because like it has to be relative and it has to be more of like a shift because we're all accelerating. We're falling into nothingness. Everything in the universe is in a constant free fall, going faster than you could ever imagine,
and increasing speed as well. Yeah.
So maybe time is just like this weird thing that just it's a property of the universe because of all of that acceleration. But maybe that's just the way our monkey brains can wrap
maybe
around
it's
it.
like, I was gonna say, I was like the monkey brain. I was like, monkeys are cool.
Yeah, monkeys are cool. Man.
You're like, we say that a lot to like discredit ourselves.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm a monkey brain. We're like, no, man.
Yeah.
We can do a lot. But maybe it's one of those things where it's like you just live long enough to realize it. Like when you don't know and you don't, it's like you're just simply unaware that like time is speeding up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you had a time machine and you could go back, maybe that's a thing where you're like, oh man, these days seem like they take forever.
Yeah.
Because I had a time machine and I went back, 5,000 years or whatever.
5,000.
Whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then like, that could be something.
Right.
Where it's like you're feeling it. Like you get to a certain age and you feel that it's like, oh, like everything is accelerating, and I actually like kind of am tapping into it just in my own little way.
Right.
And that could be something. For sure. For sure, that could be something.
Into the future. All right, we got a comment here, and then we'll wrap things up. You think of a year's time in relation to your individual age in fraction.
Fraction from. It makes sense.
Makes sense that each year goes by faster.
But how do you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like, okay, it's like I have 34 years.
Yeah.
Or 33. I have 33 years, but I will have 34 soon, I guess. But
yeah.
so I have 33 years, and I'm comparing 1 year. That's nothing. But if I have 2 years, it's half.
Right.
So I'm like,
That's half your
so you
life.
tell a two-year-old, you gotta wait a year. Be like, oh, that's half of my life.
Right.
What are you talking about? All this stuff that happened in all of my life. I remember. It's funny. Like I remember hearing kids say that and be like, man, when I was growing up, or they say the things that the adults say. They say, oh, in all of my life, I've never seen this. And you're like, you're 7. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you've experienced, like, your waking life's, only been 5 years.
Right.
So it's like, that's just a tiny little fraction of the amount of time that I've had. So it doesn't mean anything to me, or it means less to me.
Right.
And so, like, yeah, that's awesome.
That is the thing.
I think that probably is part of it.
Well, it's like I think that's the same. It's just different language. I think it's the same thing as what we were talking about earlier, where it's like that sum, since it's larger, it's like it goes by so fast.
Yeah.
Because you've had all of this.
Yeah.
So you're now being forever. You have all of this instead of you're now being forever and you have only this.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to let you guys know that we do have merch over on storefrontier.com/Rochambeau. Everything's in, all the worm stuff, all the cool stuff. Go check it out.
Guaranteed in stock.
Guaranteed. Go check it out. We're really excited about what they're making over there for us. All the quality is super awesome. The colors are super vibrant. We're super pumped. Go check it out. And we also got a show coming up this Saturday at Club 134
In Anderson, South Carolina.
Mr. Anderson. They're coming out with they're coming out with a Matrix 4, which
They're not.
Yeah.
Shut up. No, they're not.
You didn't know that?
No, stop
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Stop
Matrix.
it.
Yeah, 4.
Is Keanu Reeves in it?
Yeah, all the original people are coming.
Wait a minute.
I think so. Yeah.
I gotta go. Bye. I gotta go look that up.
Right now,
so I have to
the
know.
whole thing.
Sorry.
The whole thing. But yeah, so yeah, go check out the merch. Go come to the show if you're in Anderson. We're doing that's the last one of the year. All that stuff's cool. And also to help keep us doing this stuff, man, go check out patreon.com/Rochambeau or / I don't think it's a backslash. I keep telling myself it's backslash, but I think that's a / That is a / is it not? Because it goes forward.
Yeah, it's if you move left to right like you do when you read.
Yeah.
It's traveling.
It's a whole thing.
There's time involved.
Yeah.
It's accelerating.
It's accelerating that way.
It's going that way.
It's going that way.
Yeah.
But go check it out over there. We just put out a brand new cover video this week, and we will be putting up the request form as soon as we're done with this. And we're looking forward to hearing all the suggestions for the next one, man.
We were going through that
Exciting.
today in rehearsal, and it was like all the ones that haven't made it to the live show.
Right.
And I was like, I want to add that one. I kind of want to add that one too. Like, these people are making really good suggestions.
Right.
So
Well, I'm glad with
it's
how
fun.
all of them have come out. Some of them like make more sense for our show, and
Yeah, I get that. I totally get
yeah,
that.
and you'll see whenever they come out. Cause but
Go
over on
watch it.
Patreon,
There's a bunch out on YouTube.
they're all
Yeah.
out on Patreon, so you can go check that out. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully the stream went well, and there's not any kind of weird glitchy stuff. If there is, we promise we're going to try to figure this thing out. We just updated our streaming software before we started here, and we went back to the old settings. We don't know if there's something else that we're just missing.
We'll go back and watch it too.
Yeah, we'll go back and watch it, figure it out. So anyway, you guys take care. We'll see you this Saturday. Later.